Hello there, I'm Keo Cerrone Beatmaker, and welcome to Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. And on this episode, we're going to discuss to make a martyr is to make a people's champion. And before we get into it, please make sure to hit that like button, share the live stream, and if you're watching the replay, please leave a comment with your thoughts below. Give me some constructive criticism and your feelings on my thoughts and perspectives. It would be greatly appreciated. So, Trump is to be indicted. And I decided to have this live stream today. I'm gonna keep it short. I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds. But I wanted to just kind of share my thoughts because I was talking with my mom about this last night. And it became very apparent to me um the desperation that is being made apparent with this indictment on Trump. I think it's pretty obvious, and it's setting a very scary precedent for all of us Americans, because as much as this is a political theater, it also is very made apparent that this is also an attack on the American people. And it's an attack on the American people because this is something that has never happened in the history of this country. A former president being arrested. And as I was telling my mom last night, they're going to arrest Trump on, you know, paying off an ex-worker, or, moving money around, but they haven't arrested George Bush Jr. for the Iraq War, for the lies, for killing millions of Iraqi citizens. They haven't arrested Obama for his war crimes that he committed in Libya and elsewhere with his drone program and turning Libya into, pretty much a slave state. So, you don't, they're not in prison for what they did, you know, for the war crimes that they committed to other countries. But Trump is going to be arrested for this nonsense. And granted, we're not even taking into consideration the fact of the matter that the district attorney, um who's a district attorney, I believe it's whoever's the yeah, I think it is, who's pretty much going through with this indictment and all of this nonsense. His campaign was backed by George Soros. And if you know anything about George Soros, you know that he is essentially a billionaire who is, working towards the controlled demolition of the American country. You look at his funding of Black Lives Matter, you look at his funding of various district attorneys throughout the country. It's all right there if you know, follow the money and see the patterns. But as I was saying about how this is an attack on the American people, it sets a dangerous precedent for us as Americans because if they're going to essentially make Trump a martyr in this regard, all it does is make him a champion amongst the people. And for us, it tells us very clearly that no matter your political beliefs can be used against you unjustly. And if they're so willing to do this to a former president, what makes you think that they wouldn't do this to an average bloke? Right now, there's a woman in France who's looking at possible jail time because she insulted Macron's masculinity online. And if you know anything about the UK, the UK does not have a First Amendment. So you can say things online and it can cost you your life in terms of being arrested, losing your job, your livelihood. So, this sets that kind of a very dangerous precedent. And also the fact that they're using our government, our laws to attack political rivals. It's and like I said, Trump will most likely come out of this on top, and you'll pretty much just secure him, 2024 election. I don't, when I was talking with my mom last night, she was, thinking, well, is this the plan to make sure he wins? I mean, I don't think so. They have been trying since his entire presidency to get this guy. And, I think a lot of it has to do with just that, yeah, he's part of the uniparty and the machine, but he's also a bit of an anomaly because he says a quiet part out loud. He like he said during his, when he was campaigning and he was up debating, he was talking about how like, yeah, I lie and I will, manipulate the system and use the loopholes and all that, but I'm just honest about it. And a lot of people kind of resonated with that. And he acknowledges that. I mean, he even acknowledged how corrupt Ukraine was. And yeah, I know that, there are things about him that, we can't necessarily trust. And I understand it. I'm not saying that I love the guy or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that what he is and how he conducts himself and how he is so, you know, liked by a lot of American people, this is not gonna give them the win that they think they are looking towards. It's just going to, and maybe this is part of the plan, further divide people. That definitely will. Um, it's just another distraction. This is just a distraction from whatever's going on. And there's plenty of things going on, from the recent shootings, to the banks collapsing, to Russia putting nukes on Belarus. There are a lot of distractions going on, and I think this is just another distraction, but it's also a threat to the American people. And I think, to me, I just feel like they're getting desperate to such an extent that they're willing to, essentially just, sabotage everything. This is, to me, this is kind of like one of their last plays. If this doesn't work, I mean, what do they have left to do? If this whole plan fails, which it most likely will, what do they have left? January 6th didn't work. Turns out that whole thing was nothing more than a psyop. What left do they have to go against Trump. He already survived both of the impeachments. All I'm saying is this is the last desperate act of this, uniparty deep state, military, pharmaceutical, industrial, complex, corporate complex. It's all. This is the last desperate act, and it's very clear that this is just them trying to um cope. I don't know what else to say. It's just not going to play out the way they want it to play out. And I think that for a lot of the American people, especially the American people who, if you look at the numbers, most Democrats and Republicans, they watch Fox News, they watch Tucker Carlson. They are more interested in hearing genuine people. I mean, we're seeing the collapse of CNN, the collapse of MSNBC, the collapse of all of these, media establishments. They're losing their luster. They're losing what makes them great. I mean, if they ever were great, maybe they were at one point, but not anymore. So I feel that, for, you know, the American citizens out there who are, critical thinkers, who, are well versed in understanding the machinations and the manipulations and the propaganda and the games that are being played right now. Because this is a distraction, and it's also a threat. It's also a distraction from that TikTok bill, which is essentially the Patriot Act for the internet. This is just one big distraction from everything else that's being enacted, and it's not going to work. They really are making him a champion. It's fascinating, because especially when you look on Twitter, and I look on Twitter and I just see a lot of people are just like, bro, this is gonna backfire. A lot of people are like, yeah, you just gave Trump the election. Because especially if he appeals it, and with whatever evidence his lawyers present, and it turns out, yeah, you guys are talking out your ass, that's it. you know um that's it. I think they kind of seem to forget, 2024 is right around the corner. So this was to do this right around the corner of the campaign starting to begin. I don't know what they expect to benefit from any of this, other than uh, just solidifying more distrust in the Democrats, in the Republicans who are siding with this and agreeing with it. You're just making yourselves more and more enemies to the American people. And I know that the American people are you know, too stuffed with privilege to speak up and protest at the same levels as what's going on in France. But, hopefully with this whole situation, it might be a bit of a wake up call to a lot of Americans of individual thought and freedom, and those who do not drink the Kool-Aid and have given into the parasitic mind, which has been so clearly made apparent with the past 3 years. And so, I just feel that all of this is just, another distraction, and another failed distraction, and one that's to just further divide the country, further to add smoke, and to make people lash out. Because even as my mom was saying, like, if when if Trump gets through this and he comes out, on top, he wins 2024, And then what? My mom thinks, all hell's gonna break loose. And it's possible. It's entirely possible. But we all need to, be really vigilant right now and be very mindful and self-aware of, what is being promoted and advocated for. And, to really just look out for our little personal universe, as I say it, our little community of our friends and family, and reassure one another that, we're gonna make it through this. If you caught my live stream called, Pharaohs Do Not Profit in Nuclear War, and I was reassuring my mom last night. I'm like, we have to laugh at how absurd these people are behaving and what they're doing. But we also at the same time have to realize that as much as they talk about nuclear war, and they've been, you know, how long have we been in some kind of weird cold nuclear war, and it still hasn't happened. And like I said, they can't profit in nuclear war. They need us. They need to, keep on promoting the propaganda of nuclear war because it fuels the military industrial complex. It fuels making weapons, making guns, because they'll do everything they can to and fire all their weapons in hopes of avoiding the fire of the nukes, because then they don't have us. They're serfs, they're plebs, they're slaves. And that's the essential reality. And hey, if I'm wrong, then the nukes fly and we don't have to worry about paying bills, and we don't have to worry about the dating world, and we don't have to, worry about doing the dishes. So I guess there's a plus side to, a nuclear, holocaust that wipes us all out. You don't have to worry about bills. You don't have to worry about doing the dishes. If you live on the third floor and you got a dog, you don't have to stress and get annoyed about walking downstairs and taking them out. So, I what I'm saying is, when it comes to nuclear war, you got to be a half glass full kind of person. That's the only way you'll be able to navigate all this absurdity right now. Well, that's how I do it, and I think it's pretty reasonable. But regardless of what I'm saying, I just feel that, this whole thing with Trump, it's just gonna make people support him even more. It's gonna make people support him even more, and people already don't trust the government. It's been made apparent. People don't trust the Republicans. People don't trust the Democrats. But they seem to trust Trump. And this isn't going to make people not like him. This is going to make people love him even more. He will be a champion to the people because of this. And maybe my mom's right. Maybe that's part of the plan. And they're playing some kind of 4D, 5D chess. But at the same time, I think they're also, pretty incompetent. And it's been made pretty clear over the past 3 years. Their agenda and everything, they're pushing it so hard. I just don't think it's gonna work out the way they want it to. And I was listening to, Hotep's Been Told You last night, and Hotep made some really good points, that in terms of the banks and, these the Brexit and them kind of pushing more into a worldwide government, but they're kind of going about it in a different manner. He makes a good point, but at the same time, I do agree with Uncle Hotep that, we're kind of seeing the end of the West. And if you look to history, look at the Greeks and the collapse of the Greek Empire, look at the collapse of the Roman Empire, and how around those times they became obsessed um, with promiscuity, sex. They became obsessed with gender identity and gender orientation, all of that kind of stuff. So you know, I've been saying this for a long time that, history is a cycle. It is a circle. It does repeat itself. It just every it just depends on the trend that comes back into the history. And whether that is by design or by just how the natural state of things. I think it's a little bit of both, but this is just not going to go well for the military, corporate, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. It's just not going to go in their favor. And, American people, as privileged and as foolish as they may be from time to time, they're not all that stupid. A lot of people are wising up to it. And I have hope that, we'll, as the veil continues to be lifted, we'll be able to see through all of the nonsense and the BS. But we have to stay positive, and I don't mean hopeful, but we have to stay positive and mindful and self-aware, and we have to also stay vigilant. That is the true nature of all of this. So just remember, people, this is all just a distraction, and you got to read the signs and brush up on your esoteric and ritual practices and whatnot, because a lot of stuff that's going on right now is a lot of rituals, a lot of symbolism. So just keep an eye out. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Ronin. All things, everything. Please make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below. If you made it this far into the live stream or into the replay, please hit that like button and share this stream out with anyone who has similar perspectives or looking to expand their thought process and what they believe and see. So, until the next time, stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.